I can't believe it took me this long to discover this part of Seoul. Hardly anyone seems to talk about it, yet the scenery here completely surprised me.
Yes, right from the bat. Look at this. Look at this, guys. Have you ever seen this in Seoul? And that gate over there, that is the Hongji-mun. And the Hongji-mun, together with this part, goes over Hongji-cheon, and it's in Hongji-dong, one of the 2.5 neighborhoods we will explore today. Sinyeong-dong, Hongji-dong, and parts of Buam-dong. I know Buam-dong we already have explored, but we're going back to see a new part together with Professor David Mason. You all know who he is by now. He will come in a minute, but in the meantime, let's have a look at this gate. So apparently this was built, this is not the original one, it was rebuilt after it broke down because of a flood. And if you come here during monsoon season, you know that Hongji-cheon can go pretty wild. They restored it, they rebuilt it. The Hongji-mun used to be part of a fortress that was built to reinforce the Seoul city wall, but also Bukhan-sansong Fortress right over there. They thought it wasn't enough to have a fortress at Bukhansan and the city wall around the city, so they built another fortress in between those two, and this is a remainder of that. This is new to me, by the way, very new. I mean, the gate is cool, and here the float gate as well. But what is really cool is that parts of the wall from this fortress still go over the mountain ridge and follow the back borders of the university over there. Here it says that the fortress name was Tangchundaeseong, and that it not only reinforced both existing fortresses, but it actually connected both fortresses. What a beautiful spot, guys, what a beautiful spot. I suddenly remember that I used to drive over this road and I always noticed this gate but never really looked up what it was. Sometimes I'm still acting as if I'm in my hometown, doing insa to everyone, saying hello, 안녕하세요. And some people just don't expect it here in Korea. They're like, someone said hello to me. Check it out. The scenery here is fantastic, fantastic. We can't go up any further, but here you can see that the wall looks so much older than the float gate or the river gate and Hongji-mun. You can see it by looking at the stones, and this wall goes up and it's about 4 kilometers long. I thought this was a route or trail into the mountain. Apparently it isn't, so let's go back down. And there was a very interesting museum I noticed on the map. A very interesting museum. I've never ever heard about it, ever. I don't think it's even open many days of the week. Maybe just 1 or 2 days, maybe even less, or maybe you need a reservation. But I surely want to check it out because it's right in my alley. Please, as a government, can we not normalizing making these photo zones? Like, how on earth is this better than not having this weirdly looking purple gate at all and just have a clean view over both gates? How on earth? Instead they choose to put this down here. Here, Seoul-길 종로, Hongji-mun. Just make a subtle sign somewhere saying that it's the Hongji-mun and leave this open so we can actually take a nice photo. Come on, it's not so difficult. Oh, now it's closed. So there is a museum here and it's called Musée Shuim, and it's about life, or I should say death. And look at the building. So cool. I really want to look inside, but it looks like they've been closed for some time already because you have a lot of Uchae-guk papers here that nobody cleaned up. Gate is closed. It definitely looks like one of those haunted houses. Fuck my life. I came all the way up just to show you the main gate of the university. And now I have to go down. There's nothing else I can say here. Oh. I should have done that. Everything you see around me is part of the university, but then here you have a few detached villas with the front entrance over there. Right encircled, almost encircled, fully encircled by the campus. That's quite interesting. Very old money. Well, a lot of this neighborhood is old money. Next up, we just crossed over into Sinyeong-dong, and right from the bat, there's the Segeomjeong Pavilion. It's a beauty. It literally means sword washing pavilion, and this is, or was, within the fortress of which we saw the gate earlier.
After hearing it was called the Sword Washing Pavilion, I assumed it got its name because soldiers came here to wash their swords after battle or something. However, the sign says the name actually originates from a historical event in 1623, more than 100 years before this pavilion was built. According to this story, the leaders who plotted to depose a king sharpened their swords at this very spot.
Now the pavilion was destroyed by fire, and they rebuilt this one based on a painting from Gyeongsong. It's a nice little spot. All right, I found a way down, and now we can see it from the other side. Gotta be careful here, water is pretty deep. And I'll say it again, Hongji-dong is by far my favorite stream in the city. Just look at this. It's so beautiful and hardly any people. You don't have the amount of tourists that you have at Cheonggyecheon. Way more scenic than, for example, Seongbukjeon and many of the other streams. And look at all the beautiful rocks. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Now, that was the Segeomjeong. Let's go to the next stop. I love how they randomly put a plaque here saying side of Tangchundaeseong. Yo, that was like all over the place. The wall was almost 4 kilometers long. You may as well put this plaque on top of the bridge or maybe inside this house, but they decided to put it there. It looks so out of place. Anyways, good to know for people who didn't figure it out yet. And within the fortress were a few other things as well. So I expect to see or find more plaques later. And I swear, maybe 8 out of 10 businesses around the Segeomjeong are called Segeomjeong. Just look it up on the map. Go to neighbor, type in Segeomjeong, and you will see a lot of red dots sprinkled around. A lot of these businesses are called Segeomjeong, named after the pavilion. I told you guys, more plaques. Side of Jojiso government office. But now I want to show you something that I bet even David Mason doesn't know about. I don't know if we can get there. It's right behind this fence of this school. I can see it already. Check this out. You see those 2 stone pillars? They used to support a flagpole that belonged to Changisa Temple. I believe that's what it was called. A very old temple, I think over 1300 years old. That was located right here. It's completely gone, demolished by the infamous, notorious Yongsan-gun to make this his pleasure site, his pleasure area. And those 2 stones are all that are left. Yep, it's not creepy at all that a 30-year-old is filming inside a school area. Well, it is Sunday. There are no kids here. That makes me a little less creepy, but I swear to God, I just want to get close to those 1,000-plus-year-old pillars, stone pillars. It's unfortunate that they are not public anymore. In case you want to know what the school is called, it's called Segeomjeong Pavilion. I told you, everything is named after the pavilion, even the school. We're about to meet Professor David Mason, and he's going to show us a few other very interesting things. I think one location is in Sinyeong-dong and the others are in Buam-dong. So back in Buam. Right now I'm walking over the Sinyeong-dong Samgodi Bridge. And this is always how I imagine Seoul used to be like, let's say 40, 50 years ago. The many other places in the city, you had these road crossings, these pedestrian crossings. Now most of it goes underground through subway station tunnels or underground shopping mall tunnels. But this is what the city used to be like. And a lot of it has developed, except for here, because here you don't really have subway stations yet. Well, I don't think they will ever come here, but if you want to get here, you need to take a bus, a bicycle, a car, or walk, just like me. And no surprise, another plaque, side of Cheonggyeong-do. There's another little plaque here talking about the Cheongisachi, these 2 things. You may not be able to see it from up close, but you can see it here in mosaic style on this wall, right next to the school. I think I see David Mason. And in front of me, if no one less, Professor David Mason.
Hello.
He's back on the show.
Yes, once again, doing a great dong. You could imagine living here.
I can see myself living here.
Yeah, a little difficult to get out and to get back home every day. If you do gotta go out all the time, but if you were gonna be a hermit and sit here writing a novel for a few years, this could be quite pleasant.
So where are we heading to, David?
We're now heading up into the Baeksasil Valley, quite a famous place. Immediately after the ridge is Hyeon-tongsa Temple with a waterfall that's kind of the origin of these waters.
Okay, so we have a David's personal favorite.
Small, modern temples without a history and nothing really profound, but just such a charming location. Now, when they say Buam-dong, this is actually the Buam, meaning the back rock. And you got your Buam waterfall, Buam Pokpo.
Wow.
A dramatic entrance and
Very dramatic.
setting for the temple, and it's not very friendly to the handicapped. You gotta climb the steps to get up there. And then, of course, Pote Hwasang. Westerners often call him the fat, happy Buddha.
Yes.
It's not Buddha. It's a real monk who lived about 1,000 years ago in the Song dynasty of China. And he was obese, and he loved to spread happiness. Pote, his name refers to this great hempen bag that he's carrying, which had sweets in it. Sweets and candies that he would hand out to children. So a very popular figure and just concerned with happiness and joy. I think many cultures have a figure like this, like our Santa Claus, the fat guy who's always ho, 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 jolly old Saint Nick. And people thought that by praying to him and rubbing on his belly that you could have a son, you could conceive a son. This is their main hall, main Dharma hall, and it is extraordinarily beautiful in these wood carvings and the way they're so nicely painted. This is the Deokseong-gak, the Lonely Saint Shrine for this temple, and it's quite an elaborate one. It's hot in here.
Yeah, wow.
So many candles burning. Apparently this
Like
is
a
a very
stone oven.
popular shrine. And such a,
Are you sure it's safe to be in here?
well, and that's a statue of the Deokseong. Now, he calls him Naban Jongja. That is the formal name of him. He's one of the 16 top disciples of Buddha and lives here on earth like an immortal saint to help human beings.
All right, so that was the temple, and now we're going into the valley.
The Baeksasil Valley. See how pleasant this is. You hardly believe that we're surrounded by city here. This is right in the middle of intense urban areas on all four sides. It's good this was never developed and turned into an apartment complex.
And I hope they never will.
Baeksasil is a gorgeous valley and home to the Baekseok-dong site, the historical ruins of what once was a villa.
This is the relics remaining foundations, stairways and bridge and pond of the retreat villa house.
I will just take over for a moment here. It turns out the ownership of the old woodland villa that once stood here in the 19th century is rather controversial. Different sources mention different owners, while others don't mention an owner at all. So rather than speculate, I will simply say this is a magnificent scenic spot. The stone ruins, together with the nearby rock carving reading Baekseok-dong, meaning White Stone Fairyland, sit in a beautiful valley. Sometimes knowing the exact history matters less than simply appreciating the beauty of a place.
A little villa where he could get away and be peaceful. That's all. You can see there was a forward pavilion with his porch would have been here, and he's overlooking this pond. This was a pond. It certainly could be again, but they don't fill it with water. Okay, so our major attractions, first of all, the Hyeon-tongsa Temple, and then the Baeksasil Valley, and then third, the Baekseok-dong carving, and then this is number 4, the Unsunsa Temple.
Unsunsa Temple.
There must be lovely sunsets.
Oh my God.
He's harmless, but loud but harmless. Don't be afraid, we're okay. Now, this is a very standard local temple kind of setup, but something important here. This is an actual antique from the 1800s. the mountain spirit, Sanshin, the mountain spirit. In very good condition, really, kind of faded, and I think with candle smoke on it, and a bit blackened, but a good-looking Sanshin, master of the mountains. Well, this is a rather famous coffee shop for its location, for its quirky artworks, and it was featured in a TV drama called The Coffee Prince.
Okay.
I don't know, a quarter century ago. One of the early big hit Korean dramas, and so all kinds of people started coming up here in pilgrimage. It's a quirky place with strange artworks like the famous yellow VW bug, Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse in the front seats of this old VW bug, old hippie car, and then the stone monuments and the modern children's just funny stuff, tomb guardians.
Well, yeah, there's a lot going on
horses. Here. Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot going on here.
Decoration of just the dog above that, and the beautiful stonework,
Yeah, it's like a little fairy tale house.
Yes,
that's what I feel from it.
Little fantasy place.
But we're definitely not the only people, so.
No, to the many visitors ever since that drama. I think they've made a fortune here.
This cafe with this view feels like the perfect place to end the video. Hongji-dong, Sinyeong-dong and this part of Buam-dong. I don't know about you, but I feel like this corner of Seoul doesn't get nearly enough attention. Maybe the locals are intentionally gatekeeping this hidden gem. It's the perfect walk for a couple of hours. Start at Hongji-mun, then make your way to Segeomjeong Pavilion following the stream. Take a quick look through the fence at the 1300-year-old stone flagpole supports, then head up to the temple before entering Baeksasil Valley. There you can explore the ruins, the pond, the stone carvings, and continue into Buam-dong to see the antique mountain spirit painting before ending the day with a fantastic view from this cafe. I would say that's the perfect itinerary for a morning or afternoon out. Let's put this area on the map as the hidden guardian of Western Seoul, because I didn't know about the third fortress at this site. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to support this project, feel free to become a member of the channel. Houdoe!